All right, welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting stuff from you guys for this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really seems like everyone's thinking about how to navigate their careers and, all the changes that come with that and how to not just survive, but like actually thrive when things get shaken up.
Exactly. It's not enough to just keep your head above water. You got to kind of ride that waves.
That's it. That's it. So that's what we're diving into today. Your sources actually have a lot to say about adapting, being resilient, and even like completely reinventing yourself professionally. That's our mission for today, to pull out the really practical, actionable stuff you can use.
Yeah, I mean, what's really interesting to me is, the sources are all over the place, like totally different perspectives.
Yeah.
But there are these, I don't know, these common threads, like we're building the survival guide for your career, but from like these unexpected places.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of like a survival thing, right? It feels like you're constantly having to adapt. Like it's almost like you're trying to stay balanced on a bicycle. You stop pedaling, you're going to fall.
I like that.
Yeah. So today, it's all about how to keep pedaling. And to guide us, well, we have the maybe surprisingly connected wisdom of Albert Einstein, J.K. Rowling, and George Bernard Shaw.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's start with that bicycle analogy, though, because it ties in perfectly with one of the quotes you sent in. Einstein said, "Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving." Seems simple on the surface, but man, when you apply that to your career,
Oh, yeah.
what comes to mind for you?
Well, the first thing that pops into my head is like, if you're not learning, if you're not progressing, you're basically becoming obsolete. And actually, one of the pieces you sent was about this marketing manager, Maya. She was at this kind of traditional firm and was killing it, with the old school techniques.
Right.
But then when everything started shifting to digital, she kind of resisted, which, I mean, I get it. Fine.
Of course. Yeah.
You build your career on certain skills.
It's totally natural to resist change, especially when you're comfortable, you've achieved a certain level of success. Who wants to rock the boat?
Exactly.
But the interesting thing about Maya's story, and the source really highlighted this, is that her resistance actually started holding her back. The key for her wasn't just accepting that digital marketing was here to stay, but actually taking those steps to learn it herself. Online courses, blogs, all that.
Yeah.
She didn't wait for her company to force her hand.
And that, I think, is the biggest takeaway for anyone listening. It's not just a nice story. It's a real example of what Einstein was talking about. Her moving wasn't just about keeping up with the latest social media trend.
No, not at all.
It was about understanding the fundamentals of how marketing works in this new digital age. And because she did that, she didn't just stay relevant, she became a leader.
That's
It
huge.
really shows how that constant forward motion creates stability, but it also unlocks all these new possibilities.
Absolutely. And when you think about all the forces shaping the professional landscape today, I mean, the technology is changing so fast, globalization, markets are shifting constantly. Staying still is, well, it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
That constant movement, it's not just a good idea, it's essential if you want to have a fulfilling career long term. But, even when we're trying to move forward, we all hit those roadblocks. And that's where J.K. Rowling's perspective comes in, because she's got a lot to say about failure.
Yeah, those bumps in the road. That quote she has, "It is impossible to live without failing at something, unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all." That one really hits home for me. You can't put yourself out there without the possibility of, well, messing up.
Yeah, you got to take risks.
And she's a perfect example of that, right? Think about Rowling before Harry Potter. She was struggling financially, a single mom. Her manuscript got rejected so many times.
Over and over.
And the way she puts it in that quote, it's like, you can avoid failing, but the only way to do that is to play it so safe that you basically don't really live.
Right, you're just coasting.
And one of the stories you guys sent in was about Raj, this entrepreneur. His first startup, it was like an AI-powered customer service thing, and it tanked.
Oh, wow.
Investors pulled out. The market wasn't ready for it. It sounds rough.
That's got to be tough to swallow.
Yeah, and for a lot of people, that would be it, right? Career over. But what's amazing about Raj is what he did after. He didn't just give up.
You didn't?
He actually sat down and analyzed everything. What went wrong? Where were the breakdowns? And that's where I think the real learning happens.
Right, you got to dissect it.
Failure, when you look at it closely, it gives you so much data. And Raj used that data to totally rethink his whole approach, pivoted his business model, and then launched a second venture, and this time it was a success.
That's impressive.
So that initial failure, it wasn't the end. It was like, I don't know, a stepping stone, a course correction.
Yeah, like a detour.
Exactly. And that's such a different way of looking at it, you know? Instead of failure equals stop, it's more like failure equals learn and adjust.
It's all about reframing it.
And anyone out there who's dealing with a professional setback right now, I think this is so important. You will make mistakes. It's about using those experiences to push yourself forward.
You're not defined by your failures.
Exactly. And that ability to bounce back, to be resilient, it's tied to your sense of purpose. How do you define yourself professionally? And that leads us right into George Bernard Shaw and his quote, "Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself."
Ooh, that one's deep.
That one, whenever I hear it, it just gets me thinking. You're not just waiting around to stumble on who you're supposed to be, you're actively shaping that.
You're in the driver's seat.
Exactly. You're making choices, taking actions, and that's how you create your own future. And one of the sources you sent was this great example of this. Elena, she was a super successful corporate lawyer. Like, on paper, she had it all.
She had made it.
But she was deeply unhappy. And what she didn't do, and this is the key, is she didn't just accept that. She didn't just sit around waiting for some light bulb moment.
No, she took action.
She started exploring this interest she had in technology, learned to code, and started building connections in that world. And all of that led to this major shift. She moved into legal tech.
Wow, so she blended her background with her new skills.
Yeah, and now she's developing AI-powered systems for reviewing contracts. Talk about combining your passions.
That's amazing. And that's what Shaw's quote is all about, right?
Yeah.
What are you truly passionate about? What problems do you want to solve? And then going after those things,
It's like self-discovery through doing.
right, it's not passive. And for everyone listening, it's a question worth asking yourself. Are you waiting to discover your ideal career self?
Mm.
Or are you building it brick by brick?
So we've talked about Einstein and this idea of constant movement. We've looked at Rowling and what we can learn from failing. And then Shaw's message about actively creating yourself. And what's really cool is how all of these ideas, which seem pretty different on the surface, actually fit together.
It's like they form this strategy for dealing with change.
Exactly. If you combine all three, you've got this really solid framework. Einstein, with the constant movement, like Maya, helps you stay adaptable and open to new things. Rowling, with her view of failure as a teacher, like Raj, helps you build resilience so you can handle those setbacks. And then Shaw, that focus on self-creation, like with Elena, that gives you the motivation and direction for that constant movement.
It's like a three-legged stool. You need all of them.
That's a good way to put it. And it doesn't matter where you are in your career, just starting out, thinking about a big change, or just trying to stay engaged in what you're already doing. These principles, they apply to everyone. You got to have that drive to keep learning, the courage to learn from mistakes, and that mindset of actively shaping your own professional destiny.
Absolutely. And it's not like you figure it out once and you're done.
Yeah.
It's constant, You're always adapting, learning, refining your path. That can feel scary, but as all these stories show, that's often where the biggest opportunities are hiding.
For growth and for reinvention.
Ex-
So, to wrap this all up, the big message here is about embracing change. Not seeing it as this hurdle to get over, but as a natural part of the whole journey.
Like a constant companion.
That's it. And if you can really take to heart what Einstein, Rowling, and Shaw are saying, keep moving, learn from failure, create yourself, you can totally shift your whole mindset. Change stops being a threat and starts being the source of potential, new beginnings.
That's the key. And as you think about all of this, here's something to consider. What's one small thing, but a meaningful thing, that you could do today? Maybe learn a new skill, look at a recent challenge in a new light, or maybe dig into something you're curious about that could change your whole trajectory. You have the power to navigate all of this change and actually thrive, but it starts with that next step you choose to take.
And that's the deep dive for today. Thanks for listening, everybody.
See you next time.
We'll see you soon.